side. Others who have become so weary of the whole struggle to some extent found the re-energized Ekpa as a probably, an alternative that if Nigeria think picking up Nnamdi Kanu will demoralize the struggle. So, like I said, it was more or less like a turning point time in the struggle. So let's now fast forward, right? So when everybody seems to have sort of found their place, from autopilot to BIRGIE. BIRGIE means Biafra government in exile, which Simon Ekpa, right, became their prime minister. And as the prime minister of Biafra government in exile, he sees it as his responsibility to defend the Biafra, right, in the absence of the main leader. In that breath, he raised funds, and in what his supporters believed to be, a defense kind of like mechanism to protect the people from the marauding Fulani terrorists. While those who didn't buy into his ideology or his idea continue to call him names too, like I said, a fractured movement at that point. Others said that he was never their member. Like back and forth trade of blame, abuses, and the rest of that, finally established Simon as a force enough to face the contraption and their agents, as he put it. But unfortunately, that backfired. How? You see, before Simon Ekpa ventured into the issue of a Biafran struggle, the Biafrans have been having what they called sit at home. And it's always been so peaceful, whereby, any form of a violence, right, was never really associated with it. But immediately that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu got kidnapped, what happened? The Nigerian system started what you can call the PSYOP. A PSYOP means that you begin to put together a group of like an operation, right? In this case, a group of violent terrorists who are going to pose as members of Biafra, fighting for Biafra, unleashing terror on their own people. Unfortunately for Simon, it gave them sort of like a mileage. This was the time when the Nigerian army, who continued to, victimize and then profile the young Igbos in the eastern part of Nigeria, as established. So on that, Ekpa convinced his own followers that the right thing to do, or the right way to go, is to give fire for fire. An idea that some who used to follow Nnamdi Kanu have been angling for. Like, we need to do something. We cannot let them keep killing us and all that. But they didn't know that the entire system at the time was already working on propping up different kinds of criminals, so that the eastern part of Nigeria will become so lawless enough, right? Like, they needed to prove two things. One, that Nnamdi Kanu has lost control of the Biafra struggle. Until today, there are those in the eastern part of Nigeria whose only angst or anger against Nnamdi Kanu, despite the fact that there is no evidence of him doing anything wrong, is that they said even he might not have done anything wrong, but he started a movement or an agitation that younger Biafrans have now found as their calling, that they are willing to die for. And to them, anyone could have taken advantage of them at that point, in the absence of Nnamdi Kanu. So some people blame him for that. Anyway, like I said, it's called PSYOP. As you are planning to do something in your own mind, there are other plans going on at the same time, simultaneously. Prisons were being broken into. Civilians were being attacked, and all of this, Simon was giving it a leverage on his platform. I'm saying this to you, no matter how emotional you might get listening to this, that was simply the timeline. So, 7 months ago, right? Or before that as well, like a year ago, the Finnish authority received a request from Nigeria, where the Nigerian authority said that Simon Ekpa was behind the act of violence in the eastern part of Nigeria. But at the time, he was called in for questioning, just questioning, in which, according to him, he told his investigator or his interrogators that no, he is not promoting violence. He is, in fact, promoting the self-defense against, you know, they are killing my people, they are doing this and that to us. So he was let go. So a few months after that was when, and that was like 7 months ago, this time he wasn't invited. He was arrested. The confusion at the time, right, kind of threw his own supporters off board because Simon made them believe that being a member of a political party in Finland gives him some level of leverage, freedom of speech, freedom of association, expression, and the rest of that. And in fact, it's got kind of like a good people. I mean, like some big men within the Finnish government. So when he was arrested, many of his supporters didn't believe it. Like, wow, how? No, it's impossible. By the time the Finnish government or Finnish investigators said they have visited the eastern part of Nigeria, they have visited and interviewed the families of the victims of this violence. And they are all saying that they were killed by Biafran agitators. Simon Ekpa. I'm saying this because this is what they have on record. However, they believe that they've had enough evidence to try him for one, promoting and promoting terrorism, inciting sort of terrorism in Nigeria, eastern part of Nigeria, raising funds towards an act of terrorism, and at the same time, he's been accused of procuring arms and ammunition for a group of people to perpetuate terrorism. In all of this, Simon Ekpa continued to claim innocent, that he's done nothing wrong, right? Yeah, his actions online might have probably given a different sort of like a picture. However, he's just using what he has to promote awareness on the injustice against his own people, the Biafrans in Nigeria. And he said the Nigerian government vowed to continue to kill his own people using the Nigerian army. And he is only promoting self-defense, a position that has now led to a trial. So for the clearance, right, for the clearance of the, avoidance of a doubt, the Finnish authority have said that the evidence they have, there are two, like Nigeria, they have the evidence of Simon Ekpa sharing videos of, BLA, they are called the BLA, Biafra Liberation Army, right? Celebrating the burning of vehicles and what have you, including people who were killed and their video made, right? And they're also relying on whatever Nigeria is sending to them. Remember, there was a time they thought, right? They thought they could extradite him, meaning, let's bring him to Nigeria. But unfortunately, extraditing Simon is almost out of the picture. And to get to that stage, right, that means that his citizenship would first of all be revoked. And from what we heard, Simon had renounced his Nigerian citizenship, from what we heard. So that makes it more complicated. So the prosecutor from the court paper, right, they are asking for 6 years imprisonment if he is found guilty. His own lawyer, who responded as well, like, because of this first sort of like hearing today, according to this online news called LYE, I think, online news. So his own lawyer believes that they do not have any evidence to link Simon to any act of terrorism, and he's there to prove that. So from Finland, because today also happened to be the 55th Remembrance Biafran Heroes Day or Biafran Remembrance Day. But like I said, this is just probably bringing you up to date and then going forward. So flash from that dear Finland courts, the video that is already making round on social media. The same. So the idea of a Biafra is as ancient as the Igbos, religiously, by the way. And therefore, to the Igbos, Biafra is the identity. Biafra is their destination. And if you are an Igbo person who doesn't see it that way, fair enough, right? Because in what Nnamdi Kanu is calling for is that a referendum is a democratic process, meaning those who are in support and those who are not in support, the yes and the no's. So if the yes are more than the no's, then Biafra comes. If the no's are more than the yes, then the retention in Nigeria remains. But Nigeria continues to try to downplay, the significant, the significance of the genocidal war of 1967 to 1970, where over 5 million Igbo civilians were martyred. Today, the history is not allowed to be told in their schools, like nationally. And there is not, what do you call that, repatriation, reparation or something, that something like a closure, okay, to make sure that whatever led to that genocide at that time, never happened again. It must never happen again. I mean, on the part of Nigeria, but rather, because of that genocidal war, the Igbos have become more endangered than the rest of us in that contraption, even though we're all endangered, by the way. Well, I mean, don't let us kind of like make it more like a competition. It's not a competition, right? So the point is that the profiling, singular profiling of the Igbo is systemic in Nigeria, right? And that continue to give blood to the what do you call to the movement, so to say. I mean, when I say blood, I mean lifeline to it, because even if you want to not be part of the Biafran agitation, simply because you don't like the people behind it, or somehow, right, you won't support it. Nigeria will continue to so disappoint you that that alternative will always be there. Like Nigeria will continue to make their own. So Nigeria will continue to make the agitation for this separation or the breakup of that contraption so beautiful to people, because Nigeria won't give you any alternative. Rather, continue to make it worse. But as Nigeria pretends that this didn't happen, or it is not as severe as the Igbos who want to continue to remember it, the Igbos themselves have not, and will not. So, forget their own ancestors that were killed needlessly in an avoidable war, a war of ego. That's the way I see it, right? So today in London, in Houston, in Washington, in Maryland, these are in the US, by the way. So we've seen them in Italy, we've seen them in Spain, we've seen them in Nigeria, where people have come out to show their own form of solidarity in remembrance of those that died in that unfortunate war. So I'm going to share with you, right, the man that is believed to be the spiritual head of the Biafrans, yeah, Odimegu Ojukwu, the man that negotiated a supposed peace deal that could have prevented all the death, all the destruction, the bad blood. It was clear, unfortunately, his counterpart, God lost, Yakubu Golos, yeah, when he returned back to Nigeria, where the other powerful interests were not interested in that arrangement, which now led to over 5 million people's death. In one of his last interviews before his death, Ojukwu, right, reminisced on that moment when a felt like the wars was over when they were in Aburi. Didn't know that, in fact, the wars is just around the corner. Ojuku back then.
But at the end of it, I don't want to go because these things are all, the tapes are available, the records are there. In fact, only about 2 weeks ago, I saw a set of the records again. The transcripts are available. But we talked about the Nigerian situation. And certainly, at the end, everybody says, oh, you told them this, you did that. The fact was that our case was so clear that I actually believe at the end of Aburi that the problem was not Gawan, but probably some ambassadors in Lagos who were pressing for something else. Because we understood each other. We agreed on every single point. The drafting was, in fact, my chief secretary with 2 other chief secretaries from the other side. They said, no. And drafted and agreed. We looked at it, we agreed. General Ankara read over the whole report again to us at the end. Asked us if we wanted to amend anything. No. At the end of all that, the position was so good that actually Ankara drove Jack, Gawan and myself to the airport. Jack was sitting on his left, I was sitting on his right. He was in the middle. And in the course of that journey, at a point, General Ankara shook his head and said, oh, thank you. Thank you. If only we can go on. What are the
Audimegu Ojuku, Abizi General Audimegu Ojuku. I don't know why they just intentionally, this is, okay, I think I know why. Or should I say, this is why I believe that Nigeria shouldn't be. Ask me why. Igbos were being killed. Don't forget that too. Igbos were being killed because the politicians of that era from northern part of Nigeria, they made it was so bad that they made it point of their campaigns. I mean, politicians will gather people and blame the Igbos in the city for anything, some sundry things, like the Igbos want to take over our land. That is why you are not getting jobs again, something like that. And if you want jobs, just make sure you take the Igbos out. Real history of Nigeria. This was even like before independence. And they will go out, slaughter, kill, destroy, These are like documented incidents. So then it got bad. It got so bad that after the first coup, which finally made some of these guys to believe that they must do everything within their power to get rid of the Igbos from their region. Because back then, right, everyone in their region were doing what they believed was best for them. So the fight then was like, leave our place, and attack, So when Ironsi stopped the revolution that they later called the Igbo, Ironsi, the guy who was supposed to just drive out of Lagos and just go elsewhere, so that the likes of Kaduna, Ezeogu, Adekunle, what's this guy's name again? Anyway, they would have had their revolution. And maybe Nigeria won't be what it is now. It probably will be a different Nigeria. I don't know. But in Rossi, mobilize his boys. Stop the coup. It was too late. They've already killed the premier, as well as the prime minister. You understand? Then he went on to make further mistakes, a grave generational mistake, by announcing a unitary sort of a system of government, unification decree or something. Today,